Welcome to CaribNation. I'm David Hinds, coming to you once again from Barbados here at the University of the West Indies. We're going to talk cricket in this next half an hour, and we're going to talk with Sir Conrad Hunte, former opening batsman and vice captain of the West Indies cricket team. Sir Conrad Hunte, welcome to CaribNation. You've just finished a stirring address on cricket and apartheid. Talk for a little bit about Sir Frank Worrell, the person whose tonight's lecture was dedicated to. Talk about what Sir Frank Worrell means for Caribbean cricket today, but more importantly for the Caribbean nation.
That's right. Without doubt, Sir Frank was a real visionary. He had a remarkable concept of what we as a people, not just as a cricket team, could do. His legacy now is needed more now than ever before, because there's noticeable fragmentation in our island states. They're not working together as well as they should do. But I have hope, and I think Frank Worrell will be encouraged by this. A number of our leaders are now friends and visionaries like himself. And I expect that these leaders may have to give a new direction to the team. Whereas before, the West Indies cricket team was the image of what the West Indies people were like as a nation. Now, because we've gone so far down, as a people, as a team, the inspired political leaders and thinkers like Hilary Beckers and those at the university may now have to describe for us a vision of what we could be like, and out of that will come a new West Indies team again.
You're making the link between cricket and the wider society. You said in your lecture earlier that until the Caribbean can realize that unity, that regional spirit, that only then our cricket will rise again. Let's get back to Sir Frank Worrell. You were vice captain to him. Tell me about probably one or two things that you learned under Sir Frank Worrell.
Well, without doubt, the thing I learned most was his grasp of the West Indies team as a remarkable force for good. He used to say to us, gentlemen, we've come here to win the series, no doubt. But beyond that, we've come here to win the respect and the admiration of the Australian people. That was during the tour of 1960-61 in Australia and Tasmania. So he always saw beyond the boundary to what we as a people could be and do, always. And he used to say to us, we're not just cricketers, we're statesmen, we're ambassadors. So we must live like that, and we must perform like that, no matter where we are and how we are. And I think that was the greatest legacy he gave to me. And that's what I've tried in my own life and in my own sphere to uphold ever since.
You played under Sir Frank Worrell, you played under Garfield Sobers, two of the eminent captains in our time. Talk about our present captain, Brian Lara, and talk about how he fits into that long line of distinguished leadership.
Well, one of the important challenges for any captain of West Indies is that he, in fact, occupies a position, in some sense, in quotes, greater than a prime minister or president. Only in the sense that 5 million people in the Caribbean are looking to him for some direction and some leadership. That is a terrible responsibility. Brian is what I call one of the new generation of people who've grown up since independence. They're 2 generations after post-independence, and they're 3 decades away from the thing that stirred us and make us great. Consequently, I think at the beginning, Brian did not understand this very well, and it affected him. But since the loss to South Africa, and since our victory in Sabina Park in the second test match against Australia, I have noticed a change in Brian Lara. I noticed a more humble person, a more realistic person. He's a terrific batter. I mean, without doubt, he's a genius as a batsman. And whatever happens, he needs to bat, make runs for West Indies all the time. And I'm glad to see that he's not only now making runs, but he's beginning to captain the side in the way how I would like to see him captain the side.
You spoke movingly tonight about the fact that you were born black and you were born poor, you were born disenfranchised. And you trace the path from then to now. Link all of this up for our viewers.
Yes, indeed. I've got this inner understanding of life that doesn't matter where you were born or how you were born. What matters is how you achieve, what you achieve in life, and how far you reach. So from quite early in life, at age 11, I got a vision that I was meant to be one of the outstanding people in the world. I was meant to be somebody. It so happened that I had this gift for cricket, so cricket was my vehicle for upward mobility, both socially and economically. So that is why I say I rose from poverty to plenty, from being discriminated against because I was black to being acclaimed because I was bright at cricket. And I exchanged my colonial past for an independent present. That did not give me the right just to look after myself and feel proud or puffed up. I believe my name and fame was given to me so that I might use it to help lift fallen humanity and to encourage other people also to rise from where they are, no matter how they were born or where they were born. They have within them what I call acres of diamonds. And life is about discovering what their acres of diamonds are, trying to learn how to discover them, develop them, and display them for their own benefit and for the benefit of others. And I think that's a very important lesson I can pass on to the youth.
And many people do not know that when you left the cricket field, that you went on to a bigger field, that you used the fame that you got from cricket to help humanity, especially fight against racism. Right. Your experiences in England and later on in South Africa. Talk a little bit about your experiences in England.
That's right. In 1967, I retired from cricket earlier than I needed to, at 35 years of age, because I had a little bit of a bad knee, but also I saw there was a growing conflict in Britain at that time. The West Indies team in 1963 were hailed as heroes. The West Indies team in 66 got poison letters in the post saying, "What are you doing here? This is not your country, go home." Because there was a fear in England that the many people coming in from the former Commonwealth into England would somehow lower the standard of life there and cause conflict. The opposite would be true, in fact, if they'd opened their doors and their hearts well. So I saw that as someone who was respected by the white and who also had a touch with the black, I had a part to play to build bridges between the two countries. So when I retired in 1967 from cricket, I then used my contacts to work up and down 33 different communities in England, trying to talk to the police, the trade union movement, the employees and things like that, as well as to the immigrants, and so that we could build a multiracial society in Britain for all to share. And it is no secret that when Martin Luther King was assassinated on the 4th of April 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee, there would have been racial violence in Notting Hill in England. But because of the 6 months I had to work in England, rather than being with the West Indies team in Jamaica, I was able to meet some of the top leaders in the Black Power movement and persuade them that violence was not the only way to bring justice, that we had to find, like Martin Luther King, a non-violent way to bring justice. And because I had worked with them before King was assassinated, they called the demonstration off in Notting Hill that they were planning. And that saved Britain, I think, a lot of maybe lives and hardship. And I'm very grateful for that. And from then onwards, the police asked me to train them in multicultural strategies and tactics to deal with a new situation in Britain, which was very new to the country.
And then you ventured into South Africa, at that time most notorious for its apartheid system. Tell us a little bit about your experiences in South Africa.
Well, because of my experience in England, I worked there from 67 to 80 with visits to other parts of the world. I went to Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea. But with that experience, my friends in South Africa felt that I could play a part in meeting people privately, individually, and helping to bring understanding in the white community and bring hope and healing to the black community. So I went there on 6 visits from 1976 to 1989, meeting people in all different walks of life at all different levels. And I was always able to use my own experiences, my own background, to give them hope that maybe someday, I don't know when, I don't know how, a solution can come to them. But meanwhile, they had to prepare themselves, because bitterness destroys the one who is bitter and does nothing for the justice of his cause. So I tried to get the black people to shed their bitterness, but not the justice of their cause, in order to build for the future a South Africa for all black and white that they all could be proud of. And so as a result of that, I then went back in 1991 as a cricket coach. So all of that previously, my work from 76 to 89, helped me in my work from 1992 to 1999 when I came back to Barbados.
You talked about when you first went to South Africa and went to Soweto, and you look at that vast expand of land. Talk a little bit about what you felt when you looked over that township, as they called it.
Well, I arrived in Soweto just 5 months after the June 16 riots of 1976. And some of the comrades who had taken part in those riots took me on a sightseeing tour of Soweto. And they took me to a park called the Sir Ernest Oppenheimer's Tower. And from that position, I could see a panoramic view of Soweto stretching out beneath me as far as the eyes could see. At that time, conservative estimates said 3.5 million people lived there. Today is more like 5.3 million. It's the 5th largest city in the Southern Hemisphere. From that position, they showed me how that the police, with their brutal tactics, had caused them to react, and they burnt the bottle shops, the post offices, the libraries, and the schools in reaction to what the police were doing. And after only 3 days there, having seen some of that, and also experiencing that the people in Soweto didn't own their homes. They had no inside running water, no inside toilets, no tarred roads, no electricity. After 3 days there, I felt a deep trauma in my spirit. It so happened I went straight from Soweto to Stellenbosch, complete opposite. Stellenbosch was a beautiful university town with lovely buildings, lovely tree-lined avenues, lovely tar roads, everything. I love beauty as well. But I could not forget the agony of Soweto. And then on my third visit to Stellenbosch, a thought surfaced in my mind, and that helped me to resolve the conflicts I was feeling. The thought said, Soweto and Stellenbosch are two extremities of the same human reality. The white man needs the black man needs the white man. And by the most drastic change in the black man and the white man, South Africa will be a pattern of unity for the world. Now, I carried that hope of an answer with me in my 6 visits to South Africa, as I said, between 76 and 89. I didn't know how it would come, and I didn't know who would bring it. But then Nelson Mandela was released from Robben Island after 27 years. He was the hope, and he brought the answer.
Let us get back to some purely cricketing matters. You were probably the greatest opening batsman that the West Indies has produced. And obviously we have a crisis these days with our batting in general, but our opening batting in particular. Talk a little bit about what you see as some of the deficiencies of our batsmen these days.
Our present batsmen, especially openers, do not move their feet enough. When you open an innings and the ball is moving around and is new, you must be like a ballet dancer. You must be light on your feet. You must be able to move forward and backwards, sideways, and otherwise very quickly at a drop of a hat, because that ball is coming at you almost like 90 miles an hour. A number of our cricketers need to learn to skip. Like any boxer, Muhammad Ali, when they prepare for boxing, that's what they do, they skip. They must be light on their feet. Secondly, some of them show some very glaring technical errors. They play across the line rather than straight. And I think that comes out of a lack of proper coaching in the last 10, 15 years. Not so much the technical stuff, but the mental and psychological stuff. Chaps were not, I don't think, enough sharpened in their mental acumen. They were not taught how to think, how to visualize, how to set goals, and how to overcome negative influences. We're going to have to instill that now in the present team, because I think it's not too late. It is late, but not too late. We can still do that. But even beyond that, we're going to have to go back now out in our villages and our districts, where a lot of us came from as raw youngsters with raw talent. We're going to have to find the new talent, inculcate in them these qualities, bring them on, and West Indies will one day be great again.
Do you think that one-day cricket has had a negative influence on our batsmen?
I think so. I used to think that even the mature players, because they were mature and set in their technique, might not be affected. I'm beginning to change my mind. I think the one-day approach has affected our ability to concentrate over long periods for the 5-day test match series, even for the mature players, and especially for the youngsters whose technique is not being formed. I think that the one-day cricket has negatively affected their technique, and that's why you see a lot of them playing across, hitting balls through the air. I'm inspired and encouraged by my friend Evan Weeks. He said that in a whole career spanning 15 years, he only hit 1 6 in his life, and that was off a no ball. His idea was, when you hit the ball in the air, you stand a chance of being out, so hit it on the ground.
You played with some of the best spinners the world has produced. Sonny Ramadhin, Alfred Valentine, Lance Gibbs. Today, spin is not something that is featuring very much in West Indies cricket. Talk about the decline of spin bowling, and talk about how we can get spin bowling to feature once again in our cricket.
Yeah, things have a way of working in cycles, and of course, I think it was Clive Lloyd who, when after the 75 defeat in Australia, he saw the effectiveness of the fast bowlers. And because we had a proliferation of fast bowling, he said, well, let us use what we have, let's have an attack, a 4-pound attack of fast bowlers. And so the spinner was not encouraged for 20 years. And of course, if the spinner is not encouraged, because he takes a long time to learn his craft and his art, they have died out. You know, they would be few who surfaced but didn't have a chance, so they went by the wayside. But I noticed it's beginning to come back again. Young Nehemiah Perry bowled very well against Australia in the second test match at Savannah Park. I'm sorry that this fella, Ramne Ryan, got his shoulder injury. I liked him as a left-hand leg spin googly bowler. I think we're going to have to, in our next, what Professor Lubethel calls the next rise of West Indies cricket, we're going to have to look again out in our villages and our districts for the youngster who has a fascination with spin the ball and encourage them, because I think the best attack is a balanced attack. You need your fast bowlers, but you also need your spinners, because on the day in which the batsmen get on top, you're going to need somebody who's going to come in and bowl long overs, but good overs, like Shane Warne or McGill, and give you a chance of getting wickets.
So Conrad, you played some brilliant innings in your time. Probably the most memorable was your 260 in association with Sir Garfield Sobers during his record-breaking 365 in 1957 against Pakistan. Relive that innings for us.
Well, that was a remarkable time, because Pakistan battled first and got only 108. And so I went up with Rohan Kanai and opened the innings. And I had a feeling something remarkable was going to happen, because the very first ball from a fellow called Khan Mohammed, he seemed to be trying to bowl a bumper to me. And so I was already in position to try to hook, but the ball didn't get up. It kept straight down. But luckily I had kept my eyes on the ball. And as a result, I hit that ball off middle stump with a crossback, which I don't encourage people to do, and went for 4 runs. And I thought my day is in. And it so happened that I got going, and Kanai and I put on 100 runs for the first wicket. And then walked Gary Sobers. And somebody has said, you know, when this young man gets 100, he's going to get 3. And sure enough, Gary and I got together for the next 2 days, and the Pakistanis could not penetrate our defense nor stop our attacking shots. And I was ahead of him by 100 runs. I was going for the partnership record, which was 451, set in 1934 by Don Bradman and Ponsford. I was aware of the record. I made a fatal flaw. I did not register that Ijaz Butt was a substitute fielder at mid-wicket. I assumed that he was like the rest, leaden-footed now after 2 days in the field. But because he was fresh, I got in line and pushed the ball to his left. Certain single, because we've been running so well between the wickets. But he scooped in on the ball quicker than I anticipated. He collected the ball with one hand, direct hit on the sticks on the other end, and I was just an inch out. I was absolutely poleaxed. Not so much for the individual record, but for the world record. I felt I had let Gary down. I had made a calculated error in my judgment, and as a result was 5 runs short of that wonderful record. But all things being well, I think the right man went on to score that record, because Gary is the best ever cricketer who have ever lived.
Talk a little bit about Rohan Kanai. You're one of your partners in that innings.
Yes, indeed. Rohan, in the 1957-58 series against Pakistan, was asked to open with me. But he's not really an opening batsman, he's really number 3. But he and I put on more 100-wicket opening partnership than any other body. In my whole long career, I had some 13 or 14 extra partners. But Rohan and I played best together as openers, and also at 1 and 3, because often we got a wicket, lost a wicket early. Rohan came in, he played so well the new ball. He and I were always able to redress the situation, and I admire and respect my friend Rohan Bubalai Kanhai for his remarkable gift. Also, he's another genius of cricket.
So Conrad Hunte, finally, parting words for Caribbean people as we move into the new millennium.
All my Caribbean friends out there, as we move into the new millennium, in a global village, we as a Caribbean people need to accept our calling to be one. I believe we are knitted together by a common heritage and a common history. And we must form some kind of a political union, a confederation, if you like, of West Indies states, where our unity out of diversity will be our strength and our glory. And as with the West Indies team, we grew to be the best in the world and eventually brought a new dynamic to the world of cricket. We as a West Indian people, united as one, will bring a new dynamic into the world of the economy and the politics of humanity.
Words of inspiration from Sir Conrad Hunte, former opening batsman and vice captain of the West Indies cricket team. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wendy Fitzwilliam, Miss Universe 1998, and I'm watching you, CaribNation.
Reverend Wesley Hall, former West Indies fast bowler, cricket administrator, welcome to CaribNation.
Thank you very much indeed.
Wes, first of all, let me congratulate you on your recent ordination as Minister of Religion.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's talk about cricket. You have been an administrator, manager of various West Indies cricket team over the last 10 years or so. And obviously, it is well known that it's been over the last 10 years that we've begun our, if you will, fall from grace as a leading cricketing nation. Talk a little bit to us about how that all started.
Well, I think that you have to remember that teams, you know, you will get great teams, and as soon as the very great players all retire at one time, you get going to a transition period. And I think that we have been very lucky from the days of Bradman through, not from the days of the Black Bradman, George Headley, right. Through to Sober, World Weeks, Walcott, Sobers, Hunt, Viv Richards, Greenwich, the Haynes, all the great players, Clive Lloyd. We have been able to produce them in successive years, but and down to Lara and Hooper, these guys. But what happens when you get a situation like in 1995, when so many of them left the scene at the same time, and you go into this transition period, it is rather difficult to sort of, you know, get the team to click. And after we lost, there was so much postulation in the press about us having fallen from grace and things like that in 1995-96 against England. But I would say that we are on the way back, and it has happened even to the great Australian sides. You remember that invincible Warwick Armstrong side? You also remember the Don Bradman 1948 side? And, you know, this has happened to the great English sides. Now, the English sides of 1960s were a very good size. And I think that you just go in cycles.
One observation made about the West Indies team is the lack of that mental toughness that was reminiscent of former teams. Do you agree with that?
Well, in a way, yes. And how do you get mental toughness? In playing cricket, you get physical fitness and mental fitness. Now, physical fitness is rather easy to get. Anybody can run, you know, you could start walking for 40 minutes a day, increase it to an hour, and then you can start trotting, you can start doing sprinting bursts, and your body responds marvelously to that type of rigorous, in the end, preparation. So you become very fit. But how do you prepare your mind? It's a harder thing. It is not really only you alone. When you talk about mental fitness, that is a team approach. The team, I must be your keeper, and you must be mine. In other words, let me explain it to you. The opening batsmen must do their job. They are there to open and give us a good start. The number 3 batsman must never be an opening batsman. He must come in. He's obviously your best player. He must come in when the ball has had at least 20 overs, where the wicket no longer has that height that the bowlers are getting out of it and bounce. You know, the wicket is now innocuous 2 hours after it has started, and the 4, 5, and 6 are getting better and better. But if the number 3 man leaves it for the number 5, he obviously is going to leave it to the number 7. It's a domino effect. So
you served several stints as a selector, as chairman of the selectors, and obviously this whole issue of insularity has crept into our cricket time and time again. Talk a little bit about your experience as a selector trying to pick a cricket team, a West Indian cricket team, and coming up against criticisms from the various territories.
Well, yeah, well, I've had a lot of experience managing the side when it was a world rating side. And one thing I'd say to you is that we played once in Australia with a triangular tour, Australia, Sri Lanka, and West Indies. Now, Australia got a man called Merriman, who was an ombudsman, and he became their manager. They wanted to do things. He did a lot of things. He taught the players that they should judge themselves. That, you know, if somebody had done something wrong, it would be a players' court, and they would find players, and they did that for Australia. The Sri Lankans had got one of these people from the hierarchy in a conglomerate, a tea conglomerate, and they did it. I was the manager of the greatest team on earth, And when I came back to Barbados, I had no job just because I managed the best team in the world. That is something that you have to worry about, and players see that, and that happens. Now, as a selector, we try to play the team that is the best team for the match and for the series, taking into account it is a matter of meritocracy. It is not only that you have made 30 and I have made 28, so therefore you should play, but it has to do with, you know, what sort of demeanor has this man? You know, how is he as a team man? Would he be the type of person that we could invest in him and he becomes a team player and, you know, and still continue to produce regularly for the West Indies? Those are the sort of things that happen. Now, sometimes when you do that, insularity creeps in. And if he's a Guyanese, well, don't go to Georgetown. He's a Bajan, don't come to Bridgetown. And if he's a Jamaican, don't go to Kingston. But not that you're going to be harmed, but sometimes there's a thing called psychological abuse. It is just like a man telling the woman that he marries that when I knew you, you were nobody, or you didn't come from anywhere. That is psychological abuse. It is just as bad to her mind and her psyche as if you had give her a slap. You know what I mean? And when you have insularity among West Indian cricketers, and you find that it is affecting the selectors because of the psychological abuse, I think that's a bad thing. In the end, I think the selectors have won out. They have picked the people who they thought, you know, should play, and it's all right. But you have to remember one thing. For 18 years, the West Indies team played 29 series without losing, and you never heard anybody give any praise to a selector. So, you know, it means that if you do, you're damned, and if you don't, you're not. So it's a hard job. I enjoyed it. I tried to make sure that whenever I picked a team, it meant that we had sat down conscientiously. We had looked about what was best for West Indies cricket and not for a particular island.
Wesley Hall, the Reverend Wesley Hall, thank you very much for speaking to us here on CaribNation, and good luck on your new career in the ministry.